Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In financial news, blue chip stocks closed slightly lower despite a drop in weekly jobless claims as investors awaited the Federal Reserve's meeting next week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down 12 points or 0.1% to 11,113, its second straight day of declines. 3M was the blue chip index's worst performer, sliding 6.5% to $84.52 after the consumer and industrial manufacturer narrowed its 2010 profit target. Also weighing on the Dow were Caterpillar, which fell 48 cents or 0.6% to $77.74, and Cisco Systems, which finished down 10 cents or 0.4% to $23.19. ExxonMobil gained 55 cents or 0.8% to $66.22 after its third quarter earnings rose a bigger than expected 55%. The oil company benefited from stronger commodity prices and refining margins in its first full quarter that included its June acquisition of natural gas producer XTO Energy. In U.S. news, 2 years ago, the financial meltdown helped cement Barack Obama's win in the presidential race. The economic mess that followed could be his party's undoing next Tuesday. In November of 2008, Democrats were on top of the world. Economist Christina Romer remembers drinking a quiet toast to Obama's victory at her home in California. Then she and her husband followed the sound of honking horns to an impromptu outdoor celebration. There we were, two middle-aged economists dancing in the streets with the Oakland teenagers. Romer recalled last month in a speech at the National Press Club. What we didn't realize that November evening was just how large an economic nightmare lay down before the new president and the American people. It would become Romer's job to warn Obama. Until last month, she was one of Obama's top economic advisors. 2 years ago, Romer could scarcely imagine that between Election Day and the day Obama was sworn in, nearly 3 million jobs would disappear. To stop the bleeding, Obama and congressional Democrats rushed to approve a $787 billion stimulus package. Many economists credit the stimulus with helping to reverse the sharp downturn. But while building their case for the stimulus, Romer and her colleagues created a chart predicting that if lawmakers approved the plan, unemployment would stay below 8%. In fact, the jobless rate had topped that before the president even signed the bill. In international news, there are two vaccines that give up to 90% protection against cholera, at least in the short term, but don't expect them to get widespread use to contain Haiti's current cholera epidemic. Dr. John Andrus is deputy director at the Pan American Health Organization and a vaccination specialist. He explained why cholera vaccine isn't the answer to Haiti's problem at a Wednesday teleconference. NPR asked Andrus if the vaccine might be useful in targeted populations in advance of new outbreaks in the Port-au-Prince. Such a ring vaccination strategy was critical in eradicating smallpox. Andrus explained that ring vaccination worked in smallpox because everyone who was infected had symptoms. So when a new case or a small cluster popped up, it meant that other people without symptoms were not yet infected and were still eligible for a vaccine. But with cholera, by the time the disease shows up, 80% of the people are carrying it. But without any symptoms, the horse is out of the barn, Andrus says. So you can't just determine with any accuracy where the bacterium is circulating. You already have transmission outside your ring. There are other reasons why cholera vaccination isn't recommended. During an outbreak, it requires 2 doses in most people and 3 in young children. Keeping track of who's been vaccinated and getting them back for a second or third dose presents enormous logistical problems and a lot of personnel. And even with all that effort, it still takes 3 weeks at least for the immunity to build in the body.
Attention if you have diabetes.
Hello, I'm Alan Thicke. As the father of a child with diabetes, it's important that I keep up to date with the latest in treatments and technology. That's why I'm happy to tell you about a breakthrough in diabetes care through CCS Medical. You don't need to stick your fingers anymore. This new meter allows you to test on your arm, so it's virtually pain-free. Plus, it uses gold test strips. Real laser-etched gold in every strip provides the ideal testing surface for one of the most accurate readings possible. Best of all, CCS Medical can send you this meter at no cost. With CCS Medical, they deliver your diabetes supplies to your home. They work with Medicare or your insurance to process the paperwork. They even have nurses certified in diabetes available to answer questions. And for a limited time, CCS Medical will also send you a diabetes cookbook. All this from a company trusted and recommended by thousands of doctors around the country. Call CCS Medical today.
In health news, the makers of high fructose corn syrup have found themselves on the defensive once again. Researchers at the University of Southern California have documented that samples of Pepsi and Coca-Cola sweetened with the stuff are delivering what they describe as mega doses of fructose. Their analysis shows the products contain about 20% more fructose than consumers have been led to believe. And why is that a problem? If this study can be replicated, the industry may need to rethink its corn syrup is the same as table sugar talking point. You see, the corn syrup makers have always argued that their product is just like table sugar, a mix of fructose and glucose. That's why they recently asked the FDA if they could change their name to corn sugar. But fructose is the sweeter of the two sugars and may be more conducive to weight gain, some studies show. So more fructose in these tested products might indicate differences. Fair to say the study, published appropriately in the Obesity Journal, is prompting a lot of discussion, but so far experts are skeptical of the new study's results. The methodology is problematic, Elizabeth Parks of UT Southwestern said in an email. Parks notes that HFCS, high fructose corn syrup, comes in many varieties with many different mixtures of glucose and fructose. In tech news, Linus was right after all. Not only does the Great Pumpkin exist, but scientists have figured out how he manages to get so big. In sort of a self-perpetuating cycle, the bigger a gourd gets, the more physical stress it experiences, thus triggering giant pumpkins to grow even more giant. Their weight generates tension, which pulls cells apart and accelerates growth, says David Hu, a mechanical engineer at the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, whose team has submitted a paper to the peer-reviewed journal. Such research doesn't just illuminate the story behind record-setting pumpkins like the nearly 1,811-pound behemoth recognized this month by the Guinness Book of World Records. The work also addresses larger questions of plant development, such as how tissues cope under stress. All giant pumpkins are grown from a single strain, the Atlantic giant seed, which has a longer growing season than normal pumpkins. The fruits start out round, but once they get around 220 pounds, they begin to flatten under their own weight, eventually resembling a giant deflated sack. Wondering how the monsters got so large without splitting? Well, the scientists squashed regular-sized pumpkins in a lab to see how much stress they could take before rupturing. The researchers then created a mathematical model of how the fruits could accommodate that stress. The model predictions matched observations of giant pumpkin dimensions sent in by 50 farmers from around the country. Hu says that plastic or irreversible deformation allows the fruit to distribute stress so it can grow, sometimes adding 50 pounds in a single day without breaking. The New York Botanical Garden, where the world's largest pumpkin will be carved this weekend, says that a 2,000-pound pumpkin could be grown within the next few years. In green news, making more fuel-efficient vehicles doesn't happen by magic. It requires lots of R&D, and once you come up with a new engine or a transmission or whatever involved in your drivetrain, it requires big capital investments to retool factories. And that's exactly what Ford is doing. The Blue Oval Company has announced investments of $850 million in Michigan plants between 2011 and 2013 as part of a competitive plan to engineer and manufacture even more fuel-efficient vehicles and fuel-saving technologies in the state. This will create an estimated 1,200 new full-time manufacturing and engineering positions, something that is welcome in this economic climate. A significant portion of the company's additional investment will benefit engineering and production of Ford's new 6-speed transmissions, which are planned for many future Ford vehicles. By 2013, 100% of Ford vehicles will incorporate a 6-speed transmission as part of the company's commitment to leadership in fuel economy performance in all vehicle segments. This investment follows a $950 million that are being used to convert the Ford Michigan assembly plant from a large SUV factory to a state-of-the-art car plant, which will build the new Focus as well as the company's battery electric Focus and next-generation hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles.
Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.